To go over something with you guys, and this is one of the reasons I'm here is that name right there, McPeak. Now, what does that have to do with me? What does it have to do with empi? What does that have to do with vittone? What does it have to do with racing? Pretty much that has everything to do with it. But I'm going to go over this in the best way that I know how. Hopefully you can hear my voice. I have to get myself a little bit close to the phone because we're next to the freeway. Years ago, there used to be oleanders all along here, so they kind of blocked some of the noise. And that was our backdrop for the photos that we took. Unfortunately, I may not be able to get those. I'm going to try and talk Richard into it. Right here was Darrell Vittone's, not the race shop, but it was called Techtonics. And many of you guys in Europe doing water-cooled Volkswagens know what Techtonics is. If you don't, you can check them out. They're still in business. They moved to Oregon while I was here back in the old days. I used to work in these two bays right here. This was the old spray shop for McPeak's Painting, and they were actually putting in all this tile when we were here. All this tile roof and all that, and the little M up there. We cut that out and made that back in those days. Me, Richard, and Greg, who's the owner. And I'm here on a day when it's closed. I'll have to explain that later on in the video. Richard just a very conscientious of people stealing from him, and he's stealing his ideas and stealing his stuff. So it's a little bit tough for him to want to be involved with this. But anyway, so I just thought, well, I'll just go over here and do a video because it's part of history for Volkswagens. What I guess Darrell Vittone, or not Darrell Vittone, but Joe Vittone, which is the owner of empi, or he's one of the co-owners of empi and of Econo Motors in Riverside, where he just did a video a little while ago. He used to hire Richard McPeak to do McPeak's Painting, who used to do his pinstriping and lettering on all of the cars for the showroom. And what we used to do, what I did later, was I worked on the mini trucks, and I used to paint the mini trucks, all the custom paint on the mini trucks that we did back in the 80s. So what Richard used to do is, back before I worked here, he used to do all the Volkswagens at Econo Motors. He used to custom paint them, and then Joe would ask a premium price for the cars. So it worked out really well, and they did a lot of custom paint, which is the stripes, graphics, pinstriping, lettering, all that type of stuff. That's all Richard did. He didn't paint whole cars ever. He used to just do custom paint, which is graphics and letters and stuff like that. And that's what I did. I actually was the spray guy in the shop with his son, Rich, with his son, Greg. And we used to paint mini trucks back in the 80s with the custom paint, with the graphics all over them and stuff. And that's what we did in this very shop right here. So Darrell Vittone was right next door over here in this shop, and we used to work right here, and our paint bench was right over here. So whenever we'd hear an engine running, sometimes we'd go over and talk, and Colin Guyens, who's still running Techtonics, he used to come over and we'd hang out, and we were all friends and stuff, and it was a fun time. But I never thought about it as being the history that it was, that I was close to that. We just were hanging out, having a good time, talking about engines and different things. And funny thing is, back then he really wasn't into air-cooled. He had kind of left the air-cooled scene. He didn't want anything to do with it. And over here, this is where Richard used to do pinstriping and lettering. We had tractor trailers pull in here, and then Greg and I would get scaffolding and letter the sides of the tractor trailers, and he'd lay it out, and then we'd just go and do what he wanted us to do, and then sometimes we would lay something out, and he'd go, "Hey, no, that looks good. Just go with it," And then sometimes he'd go, "No, change this, and make it. This goes better with the body lines. Do something like this, okay?" And then we just follow it. We do our stripes and stuff on everything. So the cool thing is a lot of the designs and stuff like that were made right here. Inch Pincher, the Lightning Bug, the Dino's Dinosaurus actually were painted before I worked here, right here. So got all the custom paint. They were lettered right over there. Richard Still, today in 2016, comes out here. He's 70-something years old. He goes out there and pinstripes and letters all day long. I come over and visit him often. And it's great to know people like that. They're just the nicest people and the coolest people and some of the best car people I've ever dealt with. And I learned so much here that I wanted to share this with you guys. That pretty much I wasn't involved in any of that stuff because I'm too young. But to know these people firsthand was pretty awesome. And this is where most of your Volkswagen racing stuff started. Is Darrell Vittone was actually the guy who tested most of the empi products, and his dad was co-owner. And it was funny when Joe used to come by. He used to come by, and all of a sudden, all the Sanders would stop. There was only two of us, So when Greg stopped, spray guns would get hung up. Richard would come out. They'd all congregate right over here where Joe was, and he's just Joe was a really nice guy. He was just, he was just a really nice person. He was just a person that just attracted people. Whenever people were around, you'd want to hang around him a little bit. And he always had good things to say, and it was a lot of fun. So this was a long time ago, but it's just something that needs to be shared I know you guys in Europe really enjoy the history of Volkswagen, and this guy right here was a big part of it. The racing flames, the custom paint, all the car carriers and different things that had custom paint on them, they were all painted by Richard. So and his guys, and whoever was the spray guy at that time usually would do the spray work, and then he would do all the pinstriping and lettering. And some of course, all the layout was done by him. So it was his design. It was just, we were just donkeys, we were just doing what he said to do. So, sometimes we would come up with something cool, and he would let us go with it. But usually it was always, let's do it this way. So anyway. That's the history of Volkswagen, empi, and McPeak, and kind of how it transpired and became a big business for a lot of people, and it becomes a big part of Volkswagen racing history. So just thought I'd share it with you guys.